Hello, everybody. Wanted to make a quick astrological video. I know I say that every time, but I'll try to be quick. Also have some updates to share with you all. Um, I have a new website. It's the same domain, but it's a new website name to go to. Um, it's no longer Starseed Salsa. It is now the Sleeping Shaman. So if you go to sleepingshaman.com, you will be able to find my website, and I'll just show you guys my website here. So as you can see, this is sleepingshaman.com. Um, it's all, oh, this is the, hold on. This is the wrong thing here. Hope you all are doing good. There we go. Okay. Sleepingshaman.com. Changed a lot, as you can see. Here is where you can schedule a brief intake call, 15 minutes for hypnotherapy sessions. Got some forms to fill out. My astrological services are available here. A lot of it is pretty much the same as the Starseed Salsa, just my branding is different. My rates have gone up. For 90 minutes, I'm now charging $222. Um, and so if you want to book a reading and if that price is a little too high for you at that moment, just shoot me a message, shoot me an email and we'll work something out. I never want to be um, too unaffordable for people who really need some guidance with astrology right now. But I have raised my rates for good reason. And you know, Sleeping Shaman. Why am I changing it from Sleeping Shaman? I, this year has been a pretty intense year for me. I'm no longer resonating with starseed identity as much as I was before. I mean, I still consider myself a starseed, but things are changing for me. This year I've kind of gone through a lot of different things where um, my identity has kind of been changing. My position and my perspective and things is also changing as well. There's a lot of new information coming my way. There's a lot of new awarenesses. And as a Scorpio rising with Pluto, Juno, Lilith, all in Scorpio on my rising sign, I am pretty much bound in this lifetime to go through various different identity crisis and changes. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about in the astrology going on right now, being that we are in Scorpio season, and there are quite a bit of planets in Scorpio, including a Mercury retrograde that's going to begin in just 3 days in from Sag into Scorpio. Now, um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Sleeping Shaman is where we're at. Actually, there's more I want to say about that. So why Sleeping Shaman? Well, for those of you who have been following me for a really long time, especially on Facebook, you have seen that I am somebody that can remember their dreams in great detail. I don't remember all my dreams. Uh, I probably only remember a fraction of all the dreams that I have. But the dreams that I do remember, I remember them very well. And over the years, like I'm telling you, I have been a lucid, active dreamer, being able to recall dreams as far back as the age of 5 years old. So over the years, especially the last 15 years, I've really put intention to try to develop the skill of remembering dreams. And sometimes it's not remembering as in like being able to recall a movie that I watched the day before or a couple weeks ago. In remembering these dreams, especially the more profound and complex they are, the way I've developed my skill in recalling is through psychic intuitive senses. It's feeling. It's like feeling the environment, feeling the texture, and there's a lot more information that comes through feeling and emotional awareness than what you get from remembering visually. You get a lot more detail in there. So I've developed my skill in being able to feel and just having the bits and pieces that I do remember and recalling the feeling of what was happening within those bits and pieces opens up and gives me a whole lot more detail of recalling the dream. And that's a skill that I've developed for years. Um, and as you folks, as my witness, you guys have seen how many of my dreams have actually turned out to become pretty prophetic. Um, and a lot of my dreams are profoundly symbolic. Um, and yeah, just me and dreams, what I do in my dreaming, it's crazy, and um, while we're on the topic, I want to let you guys know that I'm never trying to be an individual that's wanting to make myself seem like I'm telling the future, like I know what's gonna happen, like I know what's going on in the world. So I hope you guys can see that I'm just a normal person that has these experiences and can recall them and tell the story in a way of how I remember. And there just so happens to be a track record of things lining up either in my own personal life or in the world at large. And that's it. I'm not trying to put myself up on a pedestal and say, I am a prophet. I can dream of the future. I'm blessed in this way. You all have to listen to me. And my word is legit because I dreamt it. So I'm never going to make shit up. I'm never going to try to leverage my dreams or anything like that. I like to think of myself as a man of integrity, a man in alignment with the truth. And so I practice that and I take that serious. So I want you guys to know that because I have experienced people um, try to tell me that, I'm either making these dreams up, um, and it's sad because I've had people tell me that I'm making dreams up because they can't dream. They don't dream. And I've met people that have been frustrated with how I've been able to tell them my dreams when they don't even dream, or when they do dream, it's in black and white, which I find incredibly strange because I can't imagine having a black and white dream. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. And Sleeping Shaman, I'm working on a book that's going to be called The Sleeping Shaman. And it's going to be a compilation of poetry and dreams and some explanation of the dreams and the poems in between. So Sleeping Shaman, this is kind of my new identity here that I'm developing. It's been developing. It's who I am, and I also am using that term as the sleeping shaman. That there's a shaman within all of us. There's a healer sleeping within all of us, and we all have very unique abilities. And the subconscious mind is just such a profound space within our body, within our minds. And there's so much we can access through the subconscious mind. Okay, anyways, going into the astrology here, all right. There's a lot going on astrologically. And one of the main things that I want to talk about is the grand water trine we have going on. As you can see, Jupiter is in Cancer at 25 degrees, trining Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio at 25 degrees, and together they are also trining this Saturn retrograde at 25 degrees, and this Neptune retrograde at 29 degrees is within this grand water trine. So the water signs, this is a lot of water. And I spoke on this briefly of just a few weeks ago. Okay. There's a lot of water going on. We still have the North Node in Pisces, another water sign. We are in Scorpio season. The sun is in Scorpio. Venus is getting ready to go into Scorpio as well. So there's going to be more water happening here, right? Mercury is going to retrograde in just a few days into Scorpio, adding more of this water energy going on. So with that being said, the element of water in astrology is mystical and it's emotional and intuitive. There's a lot of psychic, ultra sixth senses in the water energy. Just as how I described in one of my techniques in recalling dreams is through feeling, is through my emotional awareness and feeling. And that is the kind of energy that is being really amped up right now is our emotional awareness in the things that we are feeling. Now, what can be complicated with having so much water, and with there being a lack of air, is that the element of air is what helps us logically process the depths of the emotional world. So it helps us organize and uh, bring sound logic and clarity to all the emotions. So without having, a prominent air energy going on, so like right now at this very hour, the moon is at 29 degrees Taurus. Soon, in a couple hours at 11:23, the moon is going to enter Gemini and cross over Uranus. So today is a powerful day, especially post full moon eclipse, to um, experience some epiphanies and some clarity in whatever overwhelm of emotions you may have been processing over the past few weeks. And as I mentioned in my videos a couple weeks ago, um, this is a period where you guys might experience a lot of dreams right now, a lot of intense dreams with Saturn and Neptune back into Pisces and the North Node still in Pisces. Pisces is the energy that governs the terrain of dreams, the dreamscapes, multidimensionality. Pisces is the escapist, escaping the mundane and going into other realms and dimensions or fantasies and delusions. Pisces is associated with the subconscious mind, and 88% of our personality is the subconscious. Most of us, most of our brain, of our mental power is operating through the subconscious. We only have 10 to 12% of us that is consciously aware of ourselves. And what's deeply profound about Pisces is, and the subconscious mind is, it we are open sponges when we are born all the way until around the age 8 to 12 years old when the critical mind begins to develop. So for our first 8 to 12 years of life, we are absorbing and taking everything in without the ability to really critically or rationally discern any of the information. So that gets hardwired into our subconscious mind, which is why there is a saying that says, "Show me the child before age 7, and I'll tell you the man he will become." Um, and that is so true about everyone. It's depending on the life and the experience and the environment you grew up in as a child really shapes and paves the path forward in the kind of individual you will become growing up until you do the work to realize the conditioning and heal and transform. So Pisces is really profound because it's that part of us from the subconscious that's controlling the whole show, controlling the whole environment, and where our belief systems reside. And now there are belief systems that we know we have, and then there are other belief systems operating that we are completely unaware of that just mold and shape and ingrain themselves without us really knowing through the experience we go through. So an example of subconscious belief systems that develop, right? I have one. Um, I don't even like talking about it. I don't like talking about it at all. But I'm going to open up a bubble of protection here and speak on this and ask my guys, my angels, to keep these words here in this container because I've experienced the manifestation of what I'm going to talk about many, many, many times, and this is why I don't like talking about it. Um, Anytime I talk about my history of getting traffic tickets, getting pulled over by police and getting a traffic ticket, I end up getting a traffic ticket that fucking week or day, relatively very close within that. Those are the only times I get traffic tickets is when I talk about traffic tickets. And so now I have a belief that if I talk about them, then it's going to happen. Then it's going to come true. So that's one belief system that I have. Now, does that have to be true? Does that have to be real? I mean, evidence has shown that yeah, that's real. What's another one? One that I like to describe in terms of belief systems in the subconscious mind is um, people who grew up in poverty, right? People who grow up in poverty have all sorts of views and perceptions about money and people with money, and they believe it to be true, and and it limits them. It limits their understanding of money, their understanding of power, and it blocks them from ever accessing uh, a realm of life where they are not in poverty. And so that is one of the kinds of belief systems that can be operating in one's mind when you grow up in poverty and you're seeing the world and you're seeing the haves and the have-nots and you're struggling with your frustrations and all the desires of what you wish you can have, but you can't. And you're looking out in the world and you're looking out on the TV and you're seeing all these ideas that's telling you what money is, what people are like with money. And it brings you into this domain of shaping your perspective and your understanding of money, of wealth, of power. And a lot of people that grew up in poverty, they closed themselves off from ever transcending into a whole new realm because they create negative associations with money, and they choose to escape, choose to escape the possibilities of what they can do with money if they apply themselves. And so people with poverty will stay in poverty. They'll have a hard time respecting the value of money, or keeping money, saving money, understanding how they're spending it, and instead we'll just come up with terms of money comes and goes. I value love and friendship more than I value money and all this sorts of stuff. But and those are beautiful things, nothing wrong with that. But there is I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure everyone out there, if they had all like if they were able to move out of poverty and gain more, like that's a silent true desire that they have, but they're blocking themselves. So this is what I'm trying to just kind of get at with Pisces energy, belief systems, and the way we kind of escape things and the way we kind of mold our perspectives and protect ourselves in a way. Um, So with the Pisces energy going on, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, this is a big deal here with these two planets together. Um, Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces, the anaretic degree of Pisces, the very last degree. All right. Pisces is, I made a whole video about Neptune and Pisces a few weeks ago. So go ahead and watch that. I'll post that for you to watch at the end of this video. But, Neptune is the planet that governs the imagination, that governs multidimensionality. And our imagination is our limitation. We can literally imagine anything. We can imagine anything and visualize anything. We are unlimited to all the things we can imagine. Seriously, there's nothing that we can't imagine and access. And if we're able to imagine it, if we're able to think it and imagine it and create it in our thoughts and our minds, then it exists somewhere. That space in that imagination, it exists somewhere. So that's Neptune governs these planes, this ability to imagine, this ability to move within realms and dimensions, both high and low, which is why Neptune also governs the dreams, right? This is a dream come true, or this is a nightmare. What are you dreaming? Where is your mind, your subconscious, your mental health moving into? So Neptune governs, uh, Neptune is so profound in just that alone because what is this matrix reality in terms of quantum physics? It's projections of holographic lights and sounds and vibrations. If you study quantum physics, just the basics, it'll tell you right away that this reality is an illusion, that this is all just, atoms and lights and beams colliding and creating these projections and giving us this illusion of mass that this is real. Neptune governs the mechanics of that, the projections of light and sound and the creation within that experience, right? So, yeah, Neptune governs the mechanics in that. Just like how when we watch a movie, when we watch a movie, we're watching something that came from a screenplay that somebody wrote from their imagination, something that they created, J.K. Tolkien writing Harry Potter in the imagination with all the magic and the dragons and the things going on and the epic story, right? That's something that she created, wrote fucking books and into screenplays. And now there's movies, and when you go and watch that movie, you're entering that world and you're seeing the projections of the lights and the sounds, and you're experiencing that movie. Now there's a whole fucking Disney World resort dedicated to Harry Potter, and all of that is part of an imagination, part of a dream, part of something, and it became real um, in so many different ways. So Neptune governs this incredible power of imagining and dreaming. Um, and with that being said, Neptune also governs uh, trickery, being deceived and being tricked by things appearing to seem in our favor. So, Neptune teaches us a lot. Neptune's not just this energy of like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna dream something. It's amazing. No, there are things we have to learn about imagining and dreaming and creating, and that's discernment. And discernment also means having a healthy, sound mind and subconscious. So there's a lot of work we have to do within ourselves to properly dream and imagine and create. Um, Now, with Neptune being in Pisces right now, this is a time where, let me backtrack a little bit. Remember, Neptune has been in Pisces since 2012. Neptune touched Aries for a little bit this year and has now retrograded back into Pisces. Neptune will be in Pisces until I think January or February of 2026 of next year. Okay. So this Neptune transit journey has taken a long time to complete itself. And it only happens once every 165 years. Okay. So with this last hurrah of Neptune sitting at the anaretic degree of Pisces, this is an invitation and a reminder to align ourselves with our faith, with our spiritual practice, with our spiritual faith, to connect ourselves with unity, with unity consciousness, experiencing the oneness of all things. If you ever, just sat on a mountaintop and stared at all the trees and realizing how all the trees have a root system and the root systems are all connected and there's energy moving through that and then in the soil and in the animals and in the sky and in the clouds and everything is connected. You are connected to that. All people are connected. So experiencing that connection, that oneness, that source, that God like awareness, Christ consciousness. Neptune at 29 degrees is trying to invite us to experience and remember our connection to God, our connection to a higher power, to the beautiful, higher ascended realms, you know. So, with that being said, Saturn being here with Neptune is very special. This is a very rare, incredibly rare thing to happen for Saturn and Neptune to be dancing between Pisces and Aries like this. Saturn is this energy that is holding us accountable to not only talk our talk, but to walk the talk in the things that we claim we believe in, right? Because we are people of contradiction. We will speak high ideals. We will speak spiritual truths and principles all the live long fucking day. But in actual practice, there's nothing there. In actual studying and reading and applying yourself, there's nothing there. In daily ritual and prayer, it's non-existent. So we talk and bring up all the fluff, all the live long day, but there's no integrity in practicing your spiritual beliefs. Only when you're in crisis. Only when something drastic is happening are you praying, "Oh Lord, please help me, God. If you can just help me get out of this crisis, I will change everything that I'm doing in my life. I swear to God, I'll be better. I'll stop doing this. If you can just help me get out over this and da, 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 da." Most of the time, that's the only time people are going to pray and try to reach out for something outside of themselves to save them, right? Now, what about 90% of the time when you're just living day to day, when there is no crisis or when things are going well, right? So Saturn is this energy that's like, that's along with with Neptune, that where Neptune is like opening the portals to experience something real with the divine, with spirituality. And we've already been experiencing it for the last 14 years with synchronicities and dreams and aliens and all sorts of things. We all have a story that has spiritually awoken us over the last decade. And now Saturn is like, you need to integrate this, you need to apply yourself and have integrity by practicing what you preach. And now there's a well-known saying within AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And that saying is faith without works is dead. Okay? Because and what that means is having faith in a higher power, having faith in God, having faith in the universe, but without working your faith, without praying, without studying or researching or reading, without actually practicing on applying yourself, really looking within and trying to change and become a better person, then your faith is dead. It's a dead spiritual faith. It's not real. You have to work it to make it real. And I love that saying in AA because the people that are coming into AA have gone through hell, right? If you've ever sat in an AA meeting and listened to all the stories, I've been in AA. I was in AA for a while. And when you listen to all the stories, the people that have gone there have fucking done a lot of horrendous things, either through alcohol or through drugs. A lot of people have been abused or they've abused others. They've completely ruined their lives. They've done all sorts of things where they feel that that is unforgivable. They carry such a deep amount of shame, of guilt, of resentment, remorse, all sorts of nasty things, right? But they want to find peace. They want to feel better within themselves. And so when going to AA, it's a place where we return to our higher power, to a higher power, to surrender, to this higher power, understanding that we have a problem with drugs and alcohol and addiction, and it's ruining our lives, and we need the to surrender and receive help and guidance from a higher power of some sort. And so that requires practicing the faith. That requires getting a sponsor within AA, talking to them, going through the steps, making amends, doing the work, right? So that's what Saturn is trying to do for us at this time with Neptune and Pisces, because there's so many people that have spiritually activated since 2012. So many people have awakened, and due to social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, we have all these people who have rapidly awoken, and they're intelligent, like we have a lot of smart people out there, a lot of smart intelligent people that are resourceful and they're gifted, and maybe they started studying astrology, and just a year or two into studying astrology, they've made themselves viral, and they're giving readings and they're doing videos, and they're smart, like they can do a good job. But there's something missing there. There's something missing that's not really deep, that's not really real. And that only comes when you've lived this path for many, many years and applied yourself to actually working and studying and developing the connections with things, and not just all in this mental space of being able to connect words and use ChatGTP. Um, and so Saturn is calling us to really be accountable in our practice right now. And so with that being said, moving on to this Jupiter here, right? This Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Jupiter loves being in Cancer. And, you know, this Jupiter comes with also the energy of a square to Chiron. This is an ongoing square. This Jupiter Chiron square has been going on for, I believe, a few weeks now, and Jupiter is going to retrograde soon. So this Jupiter Chiron square is going to go on for a while, just like this grand water trine is going to go on for, I think, the rest of November. Um, so because of that Mercury retrograde. So with due to Jupiter squaring Chiron in Aries, right? And Jupiter being a part of this grand water trine. What this combination of Jupiter and Chiron in Aries is doing right now is opening up memories, opening up this sense of nostalgia where we carry some type of wounds to our identity, some type of wounds to our passion, to our ability to express ourselves, and to be free in ourselves. Cancer is the sign of the mother, of home, of the nurture, of ancestry, also patriarchy. It's the homeland of where you've come from, right? So it's not just home, family, and home at home, but also home of where your city, of where your state, of where what your country is. And with Jupiter being in Cancer, it really activates this phenomenon of going into nostalgia, of going into the memories of the past, of how life was in the past, growing up in your home environment. It could really trigger an awareness of your connection with the feminine within inside of you, the nurturer within inside of you, or reflect on your relationship and connection with your mothers, with your grandmothers, the females in your life. And due to the fact that it's squaring Chiron, it means that within this nostalgia that has activated, we're having to process some mental, spiritual, psychological wounds that have directly impacted our identity. Just how I mentioned before about the subconscious mind and all of the things that we are absorbing and getting hardwired before our critical mind develops. And, when the critical mind develops, it separates the conscious from the subconscious, and everything you've absorbed up until that point is there within the subconscious until you open it up and work it. So what this Jupiter squared to Chiron is, it's opening up those memories and wanting us to sort of recall and understand certain moments in our past, very, very much likely from our childhood, where we've experienced some type of sabotage or some type of wound or something that impacted us, that knocked us from our ability to freely express ourselves, from being free. So one example of this is like, kids are crazy. Kids are wild. Kids do crazy things, they say crazy things, and they have a lot of energy. So if you can imagine just this kid, right, who everyone wants to diagnose as ADHD, and this kid bounces off the walls if you give them soda or candy or whatever. And let's say this kid, in all his pure joy and excitement, decided he wanted to do something, and they did something like, I don't even know, but they did something, and instead of that being seen by the adults, that kid is yelled at, is ridiculed, is told that they're bad. You don't behave this way. God damn it, you're so fucking annoying, and blah, 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 blah. And let's say that's something that happened before your critical mind was developed. So, experiences like that can really affect you in your development moving forward without ever really realizing it. For example, another example, I've always been a big guy. I was always a big kid. There was a period where I was incredibly fit, sculpted, and, a lot of muscle. But growing up, I've always had, a chubby chest. I always had some man boobs that people could, and so in school, in elementary school and middle school, I got bullied because of my heftiness, and people, even girls, would come up to me and give me titty twisters, and that really affected me in my development growing up. I've already done that work. I've processed all of that and everything. But with this Jupiter square to Chiron, it can sort of activate that. And the thing about this, and like as I mentioned before, with all of this water energy, is that it's activating the emotions, it's activating the energy where we're feeling it. But without the air, we can't perceive it. We can't understand why we're feeling it. We can't pinpoint locate it. So that's why today, a day like today, is very powerful with the moon entering Gemini in just a few hours, because Gemini is an air sign. Gemini governs the mind and thinking and processing. And with Gemini, with the moon entering Gemini, getting ready to cross over Uranus, this is a moment where we can finally experience an epiphany in connecting the dots and being able to logically understand why we've been feeling all the things we've been feeling over the past few weeks. So if you've been feeling heavy, if you've been feeling extra sleepy, if you've been struggling with an insatiable appetite, needing to eat, needing to rest, if you've been feeling with a depression all of a sudden, or some uneasiness, or dealing with self-worth or image issues, but you don't really know why, the moon entering Gemini right now can really turn on the lights in the brain to go, oh, I know where this is coming from now. I know where this is coming from now. Like just yesterday, I worked with a client who opened up and told me that, they experienced something very traumatic about 26 years ago. And when it happened, they experienced no support from their family. They experienced no support from their community. And this was a very traumatic situation. And instead of supporting them and loving them and trying to nurture and care for them in this horrible, horrible tragedy, everyone projected on them, on that person. They criticized them. They told them they were bad and this and that. They should have done that and all these sort of things. And so for 26 years, as the months and the days and the years went on, for 26 years, this person bared a heavy burden, eventually believing the projections that were put on them. And just recently, before this reading, they've realized how much of the pain and suffering they experienced within the last 26 years was it because of that moment. It was because of that lack of support. So all these years they were living through this energy, through this feeling, and eventually forgot the source of it. And so that's why right now is so important, because with the moon, with Uranus and Gemini, and the moon about to go into Gemini, is we can finally see it and logically process it and help change it, clear it, shift it, and move on. So this person freed a heavy weight, a heavy burden off of them. Um, so with that Jupiter and Chiron, and what's beautiful. I mean, with that Jupiter and Chiron, with that Jupiter square Chiron, there's a funkiness. There's something in our past that we've forgotten has that there's something in our past that we've forgotten we're holding on to, like a wet blanket. Okay, so that Jupiter square to Chiron is doing that. And the thing about Jupiter is Jupiter, it is spiritual protection, but it's also the planet of good luck and fortune. So there is massive reward waiting to open up for us once we reach that core, once we realize this root problem, this root programming, this root thought pattern that's been operating from something that we've taken on in the past. There's a massive reward in accomplishing that work. And with Jupiter making that trine, with this Jupiter making this trine to um, uh, Neptune and Saturn here, like this is just really emphasizing right now that we are all in a vulnerable space. We're all in a very vulnerable space emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, where we're experiencing now more than ever confusion, maybe even feeling a bit lost, for sure uncertain when it comes to the world and all of the things happening right now around the world. We are so overwhelmed with all the bits and pieces that we learn every single day that's happening within our governments, within our society, within individuals in the world. It's very overwhelming. And so it's um it's inflating this feeling, this uneasiness. And that's also where this Scorpio energy comes into play. Now, in the recent, week, we also had Mars here in Scorpio, and we had Mercury here in Scorpio as well. So it was a lot more intense a few weeks ago. But we still have the grand water trine going on with this Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Now, Black Moon Lilith governs things we are afraid of. What are our most darkest, deepest fears, but also our um, most private uh, desires. Um, Black Moon Lilith is an archetype that represents raw, untamed feminine power. And raw, untamed feminine power is very intimidating to most people. Very, very, very intimidating to most people, especially to the masculine, to the undeveloped masculine. Okay. To be in the presence of a feminine power that is fully free in herself is very intimidating to unevolved men who just they can't deal with that. They can't feel subordinate to that because men have this weird umbilical cord attachment to their mothers and this need to be in charge and nurtured and all this. It's just this weird psychological thing. You know, there's been lots of research and studies on that in psychology. Um, so it's very strange. Um, but one of the main things that Black Moon Lilith represents is fear. So, and Scorpio is a sign of death and rebirth, but also addictions and taboos and drugs and secrets. Scorpio also governs the occults, and the definition of the occult is hidden knowledge, knowledge that is secret within secret societies. So, Black Moon Lilith has been in Scorpio for almost the entire year. And I predicted this all the way back in March. I remember having the conversation with my wife when Black Moon Lilith was first entering Scorpio, and I told her, "Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting year for people with mental health issues, for people that are schizophrenic, for people with drug addiction issues, for people with porn addiction issues. This is going to be very challenging for people that are on medications, antipsychotic medications, and if they mix it with alcohol and all sorts of things, because with this Black Moon Lilith, and especially with all the additional Scorpio energy, um, the potential of being possessed by lower, darker forces, entities, demonic realms is highly, highly cranked up right now. And I had told my wife, like we're probably gonna see your sister go through a lot of crazy things because, my wife has a sister that's schizophrenic and abused the fuck out of drugs for most of her life, and is on all sorts of like pharmaceuticals, and she has a lot of problems. And for the past few years I've known her, she's been relatively stable. But I remember I had this conversation with her back in March, like we might see Stacy go through some intense relapses. We might see some crazy things with her, and like, sure as shit, like her schizophrenia, full blown triggered schizophrenia, talking to people, talking to things that aren't there, tripping, paranoid, hallucinating, going out, like leaving the house and like walking and walking and walking for miles in the middle of the night. Um, all sorts of crazy things, getting back into drugs and everything. And so like, Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio has really open the doors for that darker realm to be present right now. And with that darker realm being present, it also pushes humanity, or I should say, it also thins that veil between the living and the dead. When Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio, there's a lot of deaths that happen in that time. I mean, deaths happen every single day, every year, every month, regardless. But when Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio, the deaths, the way that they happen, are much more intense. They're much more of a visceral impact. And these are deaths that can happen from murder, suicide, addiction, or a tragic accident. Um, so yeah. I've anyways. So with the Scorpio energy, right? The sun in Scorpio, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, this has triggered a lot of fear. The gateways of fear are activated. And Scorpio is a social sign. Scorpio is one of the social signs. Um, uh, um, so it's the last of the social signs before we go into Sagittarius season. So, this is raising our awareness in the things we are afraid of happening on a global collective scale, right? Things that we are seeing with what's happening to the children and gender ideologies, things we are seeing within the politics and things that are happening with Islam and Islam, being strategic in trying to take over Western society. Being aware of what's happening with Israel and the things like what's going on with Israel and US governments and the whole Charlie Kirk assassination and just like what is really happening, what's really going on, and just feeling this uneasiness, the fear and the uncertainty of what's going on with the cartels, and human trafficking, and now the mass deportations and things like that. There's so much happening right now. Right now, there's so much happening in the world, and you have to be some kind of a special idiot to not be aware of any of it. Um, if you're the kind of person that's not aware of anything or choosing to just act like there's nothing you can do, so I'm just going to ignore it and continue to watch my football, you are part of the fucking problem. I understand being overwhelmed and being afraid, but as one of my clients said yesterday, the days of sitting on the fence are over. The days of sitting on it's time to get off the fucking fence, choose which side you're on, and get in line to fucking stand up for the light, for the truth, for humanity. Because we are in a place right now where there are so many probabilities in where we are heading as a global race, as a global society. And a lot of the things are going to be inevitable. A lot of the things are going to be inevitable. There is just too much things that have already been strategically organized in plans 100 years ago. Um, but we are the majority. We are the power. We have the abilities to stand up and organize ourselves. But we have been strategically divided through so many dialectic tactics. We are completely lost and confused. And so the Scorpio energy can really enhance this sensation that there's a lot of dark things happening in the world and we can't really quite see it, but we know it, and it's triggering our fears. People are living in fear right now. I mean, there's a lot of great people that are not. And I love those people. Thank God for those people, right? Thank God for those people who are choosing to, spiritually bypass everything and say, I'm only existing in the fifth dimension, so I'm not going to deal with talking about any of that bullshit. We need those people. We need those people. I have respect for those people. I'm not one of those people, all right? I'm one of those people that's like, nah, like, no, I'm here to fucking fight. I'm here to bring the truth. I'm wearing the armor of God. I'm holding the sword of truth. I'm walking with my shoes of peace, the belt of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, you know. So I'm here for this, you know. But we do need those people to hold that space and live only in the fifth or higher vibrations or whatever. And you know, I just hope they understand that we're the ones doing the work to manifest the space they're holding, you know. Anyways, people are living in fear, right? People are afraid to go to the grocery store and think they're going to be trafficked. People are afraid to take their kids out. All sorts of bad things happening. People are afraid to eat food. They don't know what's going to have the chemtrails, all these things, right? Um, and so this grand water trine that has been open and activated right now, this is very powerful and this is very beautiful. But with Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio and the Scorpio energy coming up and the Scorpio new moon that's going to happen in a couple weeks. Let's see when the Scorpio new moon is coming. Boom, boom. All right. Here we go. Scorpio new moon is coming up. Wow. Yeah, a lot of Scorpio energy. All right. Look at that. November 20th. Okay. Still in that grand water trine. Look at it. Jupiter would then be retrograde in Cancer, 25 degrees. Saturn still retrograde, 25 degrees Pisces. Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees. And then look, Uranus is going to retrograde and be into Taurus, 29 degrees, and will be opposing this new moon, this Scorpio new moon that will be at 28 degrees here. This is a big fucking deal. I will make a separate video on this Scorpio new moon. But look, we have Venus in Scorpio, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, the moon in Scorpio, the sun in Scorpio, and Mercury in Scorpio. So the underworld, the fear, our anxiety. You know, I made a video a while ago talking about um, experiencing what occurs in your mind when you are alone in the dark in the wilderness. I've done this to myself. I've been out there or just sitting in darkness alone, you know, outside. It's a very interesting experience to observe your thoughts, your emotions, and the places you go to when you are in the darkness, when you are outside in the wild and in the darkness. It is a very uh, interesting thing to see how much fear is actually inside of you, how much you actually live in your power. And I've done this. I've done this where I've walked, I've hiked out into the wilderness with no light and sat in the darkness and sat with my fear, sitting with all my fear. Oh my God, what if something comes out to get me? What if a spider bites me? What if there's a ghost? What if there's some Blair Witch fucking crazy thing? What if there's a serial killer? What if this? What if that? And being fucking scared to the point where there's cortisol and adrenaline running through my body and my eyes wide open looking around and my eyes in my mind playing tricks, seeing different hues of darkness between the shrubs and the trees and thinking that it's a shadow figure, it's an alien, it's something, and they're watching me and all this sort of things and blah blah blah. And then as time goes on, right? As the minutes go by, as an hour goes by, what happens? You know, I realize nothing's happening and I'm still here. I'm still here. Nothing has touched me. Nothing has spooked me. It's just the nature, you know? Why am I afraid? Do I have to be afraid? How can I? I'm going to close my eyes and get into my power. I am powerful and I don't have to be afraid. I have the Holy Spirit within me. I am a divine being. I am a creation of God. And so going into that and coming into home into myself changed the experience that I had in the darkness, changed the whole experience, understanding that I am the light, I am the truth, and I don't need to be afraid of figments of my imagination. They are not there. Now, things can be there. The longer we stay in that fear state, we are incredible beings that can open portals, that can open, portals to the underworld, to the upside down world, and bring in egregors, bring in entities that come from that other dimension as a creation of our fear state. So then are you creating your own hauntings? Are you creating your own entities? Where is this fear going on? So this with this Scorpio energy, it's inviting you to psychoanalyze yourself and to see just how out of control your mind is in all of the things that you can't control in life. So sit with your fears, sit in the darkness and come into your power and transform yourself. And so that is going back into this Pisces, this Neptune and Pisces energy where the dimensions are open. The dimensions are open for you to experience the unity consciousness, but the dimensions are also open for you to experience a nightmare realm. And you have to travel right now. You have to travel and journey through the tunnels and through the portals of your own mind, of your own gut, of your own intestines, of your own body, of your own life, of your own story, and find your way through all of that maze, through all of that labyrinth that you are in right now, and find a way to experience the divinity, the source consciousness. And Saturn is also there to remind you faith without works is dead. Practice, 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 practice. Really believe in it. Don't go ahead and say, I believe in a higher power. I believe that, God is working in mysterious ways. But then if you get pulled over and you get a fucking ticket, don't fucking bitch and complain and start going into, oh, why me? I can't afford this. Can I get a fucking break? La di da di da di da. Because then what's happening? You're lacking in the integrity in your faith. You're lacking in the integrity of the path that you're walking in, and now you're diminishing the path you're on. You're saying that none of this matters now. The faith doesn't fucking matter now because now I have a fucking ticket. Now I have to pay this bullshit. Now my insurance is going to be impacted. I can't afford this bill. I can't afford all these things. And now you're affirming into this negative, and that's bringing you away from into this you. So we're having to learn right now how to live in the world and deal with the fucking things that come about in this world and always maintain our connection to our higher power and to our faith, to our spirituality. And that happens with practice. That happens with having a system, with having a regular system that we practice, a thing that we do, rituals or whatever it is. Faith without works is dead. And at the same time, with that Jupiter there, this Jupiter energy is really widening things open, really enhancing the fears, really enhancing the gateways to experience the different dimensions of your imagination and your emotional states and the interconnectivity of all the fucking chaos that we're in with everybody else. And so, one of the keys to access this dimension is finding where there are some remaining poisonous roots operating within you, likely coming from some of your early childhood experiences, from home or school or something in your earliest stages of development that impacted you in ways, or it doesn't even have to be from childhood. So, like, for example, my client was an adult when they experienced that tragic incident, and had the world project all this negativity onto them, and 26 years has gone by, you know. So what sort of traumatic things have you gone through where you haven't really realized or forgotten that it has completely um, shaped your identity? It has held you back from just expressing yourself in total freedom. Um, it's a lot going on. This is a lot going on here with all of this. So, to sum it all up, I mean, we do have a Mercury retrograde going on. This Mercury retrograde is going to start on November 9th. Okay. This Mercury retrograde begins November 9th and will last until the 29th. So, approximately 21 days, 3 weeks is when this Mercury is going to, is how long this Mercury retrograde is going to last. Um, and it's going to begin in Sag, 6 degrees Sagittarius, and retrograde all the way back into, I think, 19 degrees Scorpio. I can't remember. Let me see. Uh, I don't remember how long, how far back. Not 19 degrees. Maybe I don't know, but it's going to retrograde back into Scorpio, make another contact with Black Moon Lilith, with Venus and another opposition to Uranus, except this Uranus opposition will be in Taurus. Um, and so, my advice this month with this Uranus, I mean, with this Mercury retrograde and Uranus going back and all this Scorpio energy, my advice this month is to stick to routine. Stick to routine, stick to the path you know. Don't venture off your usual route. Stay within your usual route, your usual behavior of things, and spend more time alone. Spend more time alone dealing with all of the uh, emotions and anxieties and fears that are coming up, and practice in surrendering to the fact that there's nothing we can do about a lot of these things, and we have to open ourselves up to spiritual power and seek for upliftments and guidance in that way. Because these are problems, and these are issues where we're going to need a higher celestial order to assist us in to do to guide us through. Um, and so, with that being said, I believe this video is long enough. I hope this was helpful to you all. Again, my website has changed from Starseed Salsa. It is now Sleeping Shaman. You can go to sleepingshaman.com and book a reading. I got some books coming out soon. I got a book that will be coming out that I'm co-authoring with with a few other writers. So that's a very fun project that will be coming out, and I got some other writing projects that are in the works as well. So 2026 is going to be, you're going to get a completely new Mario here in the works. 2025 has been a very intense, transformative one for me. And I look forward to continuing to grow and develop, trying to be a better person than I was yesterday and the years before, so I can be of service to you all. Thank you very much.